Good afternoon and welcome back. If you're new to my channel, this is Louisiana Cooking and Living, and my name is Katie. And like I've been saying every week, I am super excited about this. We are in a series on Mexican / Tex-Mex food, and tonight we are making enchiladas with picadillo. Now let me just say, I cannot roll my R's or put the accent on the letters that they use in the Spanish language. So I know I'm not saying these words correctly, but it's P-I-C-A-D-I-L-L-O, picadillo filling, which is a ground meat with potatoes and carrots and tomatoes. And we are gonna make some homemade enchilada sauce. And so what I try to do, and this is kind of like a tip, whenever Mexican food is a labor of love. It does take a good bit of time to make. There's a lot of steps that go into every layer. It's kind of like Italian food where, I mean, yes, you can throw together some quick Mexican food. You can use packet seasonings. I do that. I showed that to you in the past with my tacos. And you can buy box taco shells, but authentic food, they cook it from individual ingredients. And so that's what we're gonna do today. And because things like this do take a long time, my tip, and this is what I'm doing tonight, is I'm gonna triple my recipe for the enchilada sauce. I'm gonna can it so that I have it on my shelf and I will have homemade enchilada sauce, but at the ease of having it in a jar on my shelf ready to go. So I will triple the recipe. I'm gonna try and say the ingredients as of one recipe for you if you're following along, and I'll put them in the description box. Also, I'm gonna tell you, I will link the video that this recipe is based on. Her channel is called Cooking con Claudia. I think she lives in Arizona, but she is Mexican descent, and I love her recipes. I have a few videos I think I'm gonna do from recipes of hers. I am changing it up just a little bit because I have some ingredients that maybe, or she used some ingredients maybe I didn't have. And that's what's so good about cooking, is you can make things your own. So the first thing we're gonna do is get our chilies ready to make our enchilada sauce. So if you don't, so I buy these chilies and you can either get them in the Mexican food aisle, you can get them in the produce department, or if you have a local Hispanic market, you can get them there also. So she calls for, let's see, 2 ancho chilies, 2 chili de arbol, and I didn't have ancho chilies, I had guajillo chilies. See, I cannot pronounce these words, guajillo chilies. But I also mixed in some pasilla peppers also. The chili de arbol are much spicier, and let me grab what I have. I will leave a link in the description box, but I found this company, I think they're out of New Mexico maybe, but it says the origin of the pepper is from Mexico. So this is chili de arbol powder. So I will be using this to spice it up. If you don't have access to dried chilies like these, if you had powders like these, you can definitely use these, because we're gonna powder up these chilies anyway. So that is an option, and a quicker option than using just the dried chilies. So we're gonna get our chilies into the simmering water to soften them so that we can make the enchilada sauce. We're gonna do that step first, and then we're gonna move on to the filling. All right, so I'm gonna move it down so you can see I've already got my peppers going, and I have one last pepper, and I'll show you how I clean that pepper. All right, so what I do is I put a paper towel on my cutting board like this, and so I can collect all the seeds. I've already done all these. So she calls for 2 ancho chilies. It's like I said, doubling this recipe. So I'm using 6 ancho chilies, or guajillo chilies. And then I didn't have the chili de arbol, like I said, so I'm using the powder, but I had the pasilla, so I just threw in 3 of these. So this is, again, you mix up your recipe like you can. So this is our dried chili. And what you need to do is cut the stem off, and you can kind of shake the seeds out like this. But I usually will cut a slit down them. I'll do this on the paper towel to try and collect the seeds. And then you want to clean all this out. Now, if there's like some dirt and debris, you can rinse it out too. But I find that they're pretty clean. I'll just get most of them out. I think they just kind of leave a bitter taste, is why you're going to clean them out. All right. So what I'm going to do is, I have a pot of water on my stove that's been simmering. And I'm going to go and, just to get it hot, the water hot, and I'm just going to go turn my burner off and throw these in the pot. And we'll be back. Next thing we're going to do is make the seasoning blend that's going to go into the meat to actually season the meat. And Claudia uses a molcajete, which is this. It's made of volcanic rock, and it's like a mortar and pestle. It's got that you grind it in. I'm just going to use my blender today. I don't feel like hand grinding all this seasoning, so I'm not using that today. I just got that at a Mexican market. I think they even sell them on Amazon. They're super heavy because they're made of volcanic rock. But if you, sometimes at Mexican restaurants, you can get like an appetizer that's served in those. They're very interesting. I've made guacamole in it. You just can grind up anything in there. So I'm just gonna use my blender today, and we're gonna get this going. So this part of the recipe, I'm not tripling. I'm only tripling the enchilada sauce. I'm making one recipe of the filling for the enchiladas. And so for us tonight, there's only 3 of us here tonight. I'll make one pan that's kind of smaller, and then I'll put some in the freezer. And again, this is another easy way to have many meals. If you want to double this part of the recipe and put several pans in the freezer, that's something definitely an option. So in our blender, we're going to, I gotta get my ingredient list here. We're gonna do 1/2 cup of water. She says 3 garlic cloves, but if you know me, I like garlic. We like garlic, so I'm going with 6 garlic cloves. 1 bay leaf. 1 tablespoon of cumin. A tablespoon doesn't fit in my jar, so we'll do the best we can here. 2 teaspoons of Mexican oregano. Mexican oregano is just slightly different than an Italian oregano. If you don't have the Mexican, you can use the Italian, that's fine. But we cook a lot of Mexican food, so I like to keep the Mexican oregano on hand. 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Again, I use the pink Himalayan salt. And then 1 tablespoon of peppercorns. So just have a jar of peppercorns here. Now this is going to get pretty noisy, so I will cut this as it's blending, and we will come back together. It smells very good. So we're gonna move over to the stove. I think we have all of our ingredients ready because I've already pre-chopped all of my my vegetables are gonna go in the filling. So I think we have everything ready, and we're gonna move over to the stove and get going with this. So I have my skillet heating up here, and I'm gonna add, she calls for 2 pounds of ground meat. This is 1.25 pounds. I showed this to you before that I get at Costco. So, but I have some ground meat that I've already cooked the other day when I was making some spaghetti. And then I saved half of it out to add to this tonight. So we're gonna start with this, and then we're gonna add some more meat to it. So 2 pounds of ground meat. I use my little meat chopper to break it up. I try to link all the equipment that I use while I'm cooking down in the description box if you wanted to get something. Pretty much everything I have in my kitchen, I have it because I love it and I use it. If I don't like something or don't use it much, I don't keep it because it just takes up space. I might save it for a little while thinking, oh, well, I'll use that, but then I end end up getting rid of it. So like I said in the past, we want this to get not just brown, we want it, or not just browned, we want it brown. We want to cook it like crispy so it gets that extra flavor going on. So kind of spread it out as I'm chopping it up to cover up more surface of the pan. We're not going to add salt to this because we put it in the seasoning. This, I don't even know what to call this. She calls it a paste. It's not really a paste. It's kind of watery because you got to cook the potatoes, but there's salt in here. Something else she calls for is serrano peppers, and I did not buy serrano peppers because I am growing. This is kind of a small one. These Sugar Rush Peach peppers, and these are pretty spicy. These are more spicy than the jalapeno, which a serrano is spicier than a jalapeno. So I cut up these instead of buying serranos. She calls for 2 serrano peppers, which you get in like the produce department next to the jalapenos or poblano peppers. They're green and they're long and thin. So I'm going to use my peppers instead of the ones she said to use. Again, this is kind of, when you're cooking, you kind of make it your own. I do have my chilies soaking in this hot water here to soften them up so we can blend them up to make the enchilada sauce. And all these little canning items that I keep mentioning throughout all of my cooking videos. We've made homemade vanilla extract, we made lemon extract, chicken broth, I'm trying to think, spaghetti sauce, salsa, hot sauce. I think I've made that in the videos. Any of these things, people love those for gifts. You can give those. Christmas is coming up soon. People love homemade gifts. They don't, I mean, it kind of sounds weird giving chicken broth, but people really do like those kind of things. Half an onion. I think I chopped more than half, so we won't have quite all that. Plus I already had onion in my other ground meat. Spice mix here. That will stir. And then she says to add the diced potatoes, carrots, and the pepper. So she calls for 3 small potatoes. You're going to cut them in like little bite-sized chunks. 3 small carrots, and then 3 Roma tomatoes. Oh, sorry, we're not going to do the tomatoes yet. The 2 chilies. So again, so the serranos, I'm using my Sugar Rush Peach peppers here. They're very spicy. Have more. I had 2 very large potatoes. I think I have, she says 3 small, so I'm probably not going to put all this potato in here. We'll put some and we'll stir it and kind of see where we're at. Carrots in here. Plenty of potato. So this makes a lot of fillings. This is one recipe and it's going to make a lot of enchiladas. So we'll have some enchiladas in the freezer. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cover this and let this cook for about 10 minutes softening up those potatoes and the carrots. So we'll cover this. We'll let this cook for about 10 minutes and we'll check the softness of the potatoes. And in the meantime, we will get to making our enchilada sauce. Okay, so now we're gonna make our enchilada sauce. So we're gonna do some stuff in the blender and then we're gonna move over to the stove to cook it on the stovetop. So in our blender, we're gonna put our chilies that we did soften. Put those in here. Now I'm gonna add my chili powder, like I said, just to make it a little spicier. All right. Again, I'm tripling my recipe here. So she calls for 3 garlic cloves. Put those in there. One more. 4 tablespoons of tomato paste. So I'm gonna use my whole tube here. Squeeze it all out. Again, there's very many steps. Very many. I don't even think that's right. There's quite a few steps to making this, but once you get them, you can freeze, save for later. Just make ahead of time. 4 tablespoons of chili powder. So I'm gonna do 12 tablespoons, which I'm gonna see how much that is in just a cup. She says 4 tablespoons. 12 tablespoons is 3/4 of a cup. So I hope I have enough then. We'll just have to make it work. It's almost 3/4 of a cup. And then, let's see, 1.5 teaspoons of cumin. So I'm gonna do 4.5, which is a tablespoon and a half a teaspoon. All right. 1/4 teaspoon of vinegar. I have my apple cider vinegar here. So I'm gonna add almost a teaspoon. And then 2.25 teaspoons of salt. So it's 2, 4, 6, 7 teaspoons, 2.5 tablespoons. Again, I am tripling this recipe is why I'm having so much salt in there. So we're gonna give this a quick blend in the blender and then we'll move over to the stove to finish the enchilada sauce. All right, so these chilies are kind of thick. You're gonna end up adding chicken broth to this recipe, so I'm gonna pour a little bit in here to get this moving. Over to the stovetop and then we will get the sauce finished. Okay, so on our stove here, she calls hers enchilada gravy and it's a little thicker than I would like. So I'm going to just double this part, the thickening agent part of the recipe, and then triple everything else. So for one recipe, she calls for 7 tablespoons of butter or oil and 7 tablespoons of flour. And then we're going to whisk this together and make like a roux. So we're going to do this just enough to cook the flour so it's not raw anymore. And make it smooth. And to this, once we cook it for a couple of minutes, we are going to add 4 cups of chicken broth, so I'm going to add 12 cups, which is 3 quarts. And we did already add some to our blender when we were boning up the chilies. So we'll cook this for a couple minutes and then we'll add our broth. Alright, so this is what we call blonde roux. We're going to add in our chicken broth now. The first time I made this, I was kind of like, what's going on? Why are we making the gravy with the flour and the broth? But it is so good. In the past, I had always just bought canned enchilada sauce, which, you know, for a quicker version, that's what you can do. And then I made this, and I was like, I will never buy canned again. So this is chicken broth I made. I can put a link up in the top on the cards to my video when we made this together, if you want to check that out. I boil my chicken for, it depends on how much time I have, usually about 24 hours of bones to make my broth. Get all the collagen out, all the good stuff. This one's been in the fridge, so it's thick. Oops. So I'm going to use a little spatula here to help this out. You can see the nice thick gelatinous. That's the collagen that's so good for you. If you don't have a high-power blender that can blend up these chilies, and or your food processor can't blend them up very good, you can always just run it through a strainer so that you have a smooth sauce. So we'll whisk this again. We're going to bring this up to a boil so it thickens all the way. And we're going to add our chili mixture to it. You can smell this in my kitchen right now, and it's so good. I love Mexican food. Should have saved some of that broth out to rinse my blender out. Just add a tad of hot water to this to loosen it up and get it out of here, because we don't want to waste any of this. Give this a quick whisk. Like I said, I was super skeptical at first until I finished it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I will never go back. Alright, I'm going to add a little bit of hot water to my blender cup to get the rest of that out while this comes to a simmer. Up to a simmer. All right, so our filling is done. Our potatoes are nice and tender. They're fork tender. So next thing she calls for is 3 Roma tomatoes. And tomatoes are one of the things that are on the Dirty Dozen list. If you don't know what that is, that's items that you should, if you buy, you should always buy organic if you can. I know that's not always possible or in the budget. I just have started doing this because I've been doing research and I can finally afford it. So I bought canned diced tomatoes that are organic, and that's what we'll be using today. So she calls for 3 Roma tomatoes. So I'm just going to put all this in here. They're called the Dirty Dozen because of the pesticides they use on the crops. That's just not something that we're happy with anymore. And it's not like I can say anymore. I didn't know before. It's all about being educated. Alright, so this is our filling, our enchiladas. And I'm going to pull this off and we will get our tortillas going that we'll be using to roll our enchiladas with, because we have to kind of pre-cook those. So let me get that set up and we will get busy with that. Alright, you can see the thickness of this enchilada sauce. And I did 2/3 of the amount of thickener that she called for, so she has it pretty thick. I might even thin this down a little bit more because I'm just not, I guess maybe the American me. I'm used to canned enchilada sauce is a lot thinner than this. We'll see when I start rolling them if I need to thin them out some. Alright, so that's just going to be a low until we're ready to use it. And we're going to cook our tortilla shells over here. I just have some avocado oil heating in my skillet. And it's just a quick, just to soften the tortillas. It's not like we're cooking them. We don't want them crispy. If you don't do this, they will fall apart when you go to roll them. So what I'm going to do is just drop them in there just for a few seconds. Flip it over. And it's that quick. And drain them on paper towels and then move to the next one. You kind of know it's ready when it starts kind of blistering or bubbling up. So drop that in. And I'll just keep cooking these until I have, you know, what I think I'm going to need. For that amount of meat, I'm thinking we can get like 24 enchiladas out of it, so I'll just do like 24 of these tortillas. Okay, so we have all of our different individual parts made. We have our enchilada sauce, we have our tortillas finished up, we have our filling, and then I also have some shredded cheese that we shred ourselves. It's a mixture of mild cheddar, and then I've showed this before when I was making my flautas. This is Oaxaca cheese. It's a very melty cheese. We really like this on our Mexican food. So I do have a mixture of those, and those will go on the top of the enchiladas. And we'll get to rolling. All right, so here is all of our different parts. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a ladle of this enchilada sauce in the bottom of my pan. Now Claudia does hers a little different. She does not do this part. She dips each tortilla in the sauce. But this is the way I like to make it. So enchilada sauce, and then we have our tortillas. And so just make it a different spoon. All right, take a spoon of our filling, kind of put towards the back end. If you watch that flauta video too, kind of the same thing. Put it towards the back so that you can roll it up. You put the seam side down in your pan so it doesn't unroll. And we'll just do that, and we'll keep rolling. Something you could do too, just to add a little bit more vegetable content to this and kind of sneak it in for your kids. I have seen, I watched several different Hispanic ladies on YouTube, and one of the pages is Simply Mama Cooks, and she makes this filling, and then she puts, but she cubes up zucchini and squash in hers, but it's kind of hard to hide that from kids. So what you could do is do shredded zucchini. It would just cook down with the meat, and you wouldn't really see it. So that would add more vegetables to your kids' meal. I know my hands are in this video quite a bit, and I'm just going to do a little disclaimer real quick. I do have little open, not open, but little blisters on my finger. I was finally getting my fall garden planted, and I came across a bunch of ants in my garden bed. So if you're wondering what's going on with my hands, that's what it is. It's ant bites. Ants don't hurt your plants, they just hurt you. So just trying to let those get healed up. All right, we're gonna keep rolling. I do have this smaller pan for us tonight, and like I said, I'll make some and put them in the freezer. And then also have a daughter that really loves enchiladas, and so I'll make a pan for her to take home with her. Again, while you're making food, you might as well make extra and have another meal ready. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got 2 more in there, and that'll be plenty for us for dinner tonight. This is a little spicy. If your family doesn't like spicy, maybe leave out the serrano peppers, or the chili de árbol and the enchilada sauce. All right, so what I'm gonna do with this pan, I'm gonna move this to the side for now. Hey everybody, I'm super excited about this dinner tonight. We were able to get 25 enchiladas out of this. I have this much of the filling left, so this will go in the freezer also. And then I got 6 pints of my enchilada sauce to use in the future. So we're gonna go ahead, and my mouth is watering, plate this up and give it a taste test. Let me pull you down so you can see it. It's all nice and cheesy and melty and bubbly. So something you can serve alongside, if you follow me along at all. You know I don't like sour cream, but this is Mexican crema. This is like a Mexican sour cream. It's called table cream. It's kind of a cross between a sour cream and whipping cream. So this my husband will drizzle on top of his. You can serve this with refried beans. I made those in the past, some Spanish rice. But today we're just stepping in the kitchen. It's been about 2 hours to do all this. So get in the kitchen, get your kitchen dirty once. I do have a sink full of dirty dishes. My dishwasher is running at the moment. Get it all done, and then you have meals for a while. Oh, I just touched the pan, it's hot. So I'm gonna plate one of these up and then we'll get a taste test. Oh, my cheese is getting all stringy. So this is my plate here. Of course, like I said, the rice, beans, that kind of stuff. This is super hot. But we have to dig in and try it because it's so yummy. Cider Rose is down here on the floor waiting for me to drop something. If you've never made your own enchilada sauce, you've got to give it a try. I know it takes time, but like I said, once you do it, you can even freeze this. If you don't have a canner and you're not interested in canning things like that, you could freeze it in your jars or the plastic deli containers that come in quart size and pint size. You can freeze it that way too. You don't have to do it in the canner. So I hope you give this recipe a try. It's super yummy. Let me know if you try it and what you think. And we will see you back next time. Thanks for watching. And if you haven't subscribed already, just ask that you do so. And we'll see you next time. Bye.